Hello everyone and welcome to the high ticket selling module. This module is going to be going over the strategy and the tactics of selling high ticket programs, services, or products. And as you'll see as we dive in here, the strategy is going to be very similar to what we talked about in the 10x Your Fees freelancing video. But this is going to be more tailored towards things other than copywriting specifically, and you're going to see how we dive into there. But first, we need to start with some assumptions. Those assumptions are that you watch module 9 and you're going to have a few things before we start here, because high ticket selling, 90% of high ticket sales actually occurs before you get on the phone with someone to actually sell them something. And we're going to work through those assumptions real quick, and then we're going to work through some of the things you can have going in your favor before you start the conversation. The first thing is that you've picked a one client and one problem that you're going to focus on exclusively. This was in module 9, so if you need a refresher, go back to module 9 and look at some of the prerequisites that we start with there. One client and one problem. The reason you do this is because high ticket sales is about having something that is high value enough for the person that you're selling to, for them to understand that price is no longer an objection, because they need your solution that you're providing to them so badly or so specifically for their problem that price doesn't come up. It's not a question of whether or not they have the money. They're going to get the money if the solution is correct for them. And that's part of high ticket selling in a nutshell. It's not about having some fancy tactics on the back end where you're trying to manipulate them or, persuade them in some nefarious way. The reality of high ticket selling is that if you have a high value enough offer, as we'll talk about here in a second, then most of the sale is already done for you, and your job becomes more of a qualification than an actual persuasion. So pick your one client and pick their number one biggest problem that you're solving for them. The next thing you're going to have is a lead generation system of some kind, whether that's organic, like we talked about in module 9, whether it's paid or some sort of whale method as they're coming in. There has to be a funnel that is bringing them into your sphere, specifically so that they actually schedule a call with you on their own time so that they are contacting you. The type of positioning that it takes to make a high ticket sale or to sell a high ticket service is one that doesn't come from reaching out to people. It is possible, but when you try and reach out to people and you don't have that power positioning of being the one that they contacted, then you have to do a ton of stuff on the front end and be an excellent salesperson to get a high ticket sale from them. And that's not what I'm teaching in this course. Instead, we're going to look at having a lead generation system that's funneling them into your sphere so that they set up a time to talk with you about solving their problem, specifically about the one problem that you fixed. And this might sound obvious, but the next thing that you're going to have is something to sell. So if you don't have a product or service yet, if you don't have something in your head that you want to sell that is specific or that is tailored to the one client, one problem that you picked in module 9, you need to have that before you start selling to people. The only caveat to that is if you provide some sort of high value service, and that service is going to be custom or bespoke to whatever client you're talking to. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in the tactics when we're discussing some of the things to ask. But you either need to have a pre-made program or product or even a pre-made service that you're going to sell to them with some pricing, or a completely custom thing that you're going to be discussing on the call. But we'll discuss both of those in the tactics, but you have to have one of those two things, either a pre-made product or a custom product. Now, let's jump into the thing that's most important about a high ticket offer, which is the actual offer itself. Just the fact that it's high ticket, maybe $5,000, $10,000, $25,000, and even $100,000 or more. The fact that it's high ticket isn't necessarily as important as the offer itself. These are the different components of having an irresistible offer for a high ticket offer. The first one is a high intrinsic ROI. The high intrinsic ROI is something that when you hear it, when the first thing that pops into your client's mind is that is the offer, it makes sense to them. They go, wow, that is intrinsically valuable. Let me give you an example. If I said I can get you a fully written, fully designed video sales letter that sells your product to your email list and guarantees to be converting at least 1 to 2% to your email list, and if it doesn't convert, then I will give you your money back and work on the VSL until it keeps converting. That is an intrinsically high value offer. And now it becomes a question of, okay, do I need a VSL? The answer is almost yes, almost always yes, if you have a good qualification process. And can I afford the fee? And the fee is going to be basically whatever that person can afford if that's truly a solution that they need. Another example would be fitness. If you're selling a high ticket fitness offer, as in you're giving someone 12 months of coaching or a very specific high touch coaching program, then and it's something that costs $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, then instead of the price point being on the front end, you can say, if you work with me for 12 weeks, I guarantee that you will shed 45 pounds of belly fat and gain 10 pounds of muscle in those 12 weeks. You will never be hungry, and you will have every single day planned for you so that all you have to do is pick up your phone, look at what you're doing for that day, and actually show up to the gym and eat the food. That's all you have to do. It's done for you. I guarantee these results. If you don't get these results, I'll work with you for free, or I will refund you your entire price. It's a no-brainer. And that's the litmus test of a high intrinsic ROI type offer. If it's true, if the offer is actually true, then it will be a no-brainer for your ideal client. They cannot say no to it. And now the question becomes, okay, not do I need this or not? Because the answer is obviously yes to a high intrinsic ROI for the right client. But now the question is it true? Can I believe this person? Is this something that I'm going to take action on right now? And those are the questions that you're answering in your high ticket phone call instead of, is this right for me? You're dealing with the prime objection right at the very beginning with your high intrinsic ROI. The next step of an irresistible offer after you have the true high intrinsic ROI offer is to create a way of describing that offer that is clear, simple, brief, and immediate or urgent. Let's go over all 4 of those. Clarity is about not being cute, not being verbose, not being long and long-winded. You want to be very clear and concise and to the point with how you're describing your offer. Like I was giving you those examples about high intrinsic ROI, there was no question about what I was offering. It was very specific, and it included words like guarantee, specific results, time-based stuff, all that kind of stuff. Very, very clear in what I was offering. Also, simplicity matters. So you're not saying I will create a 57-point sales funnel for you that incorporates SMS messaging, LMS integrations with your email autoresponder and AR sequences with sauce sequence emails and building up Facebook ads into your ROI. Like, you don't throw all that crap out in the offer because the way you are going to accomplish the offer isn't really relevant to the offer itself. All that matters is the promise. So as simple as you can make it is the best. Simple is best. The next thing is brief. You don't want to go on with a super long headline or a super long description of the offer because if you can't be brief, then it's not going to be clear or simple. That's just plain and simple. And also urgent. Because one of the things you're going to try and overcome with your clients with high ticket products is inertia and fear. Because a lot of people, when spending big money on something that they know they truly need, still have that sense of inertia. They have that sense of, I don't know if I should get started with it right now. So the offer has to have something immediate or urgent built into it. Whether or not that is a discount for acting quickly, whether or not it's a very limited seating, as in, you have this conversation with them, you have 3 conversations after them, and you are selling 2 spots. That is urgency. And then, other things like you only offer this at a certain time, you only offer it to a certain type of person. It's lots of different ways to build in the idea of immediacy or urgency. And those 4 things, clarity, simplicity, brevity, and urgency or immediacy, need to be built into the irresistible offer in order to get them over that point of, okay, let's take action right now because I understand this. The third component to an irresistible offer is proof and credibility. And they're not the same thing. So there's 7 different ways of doing proof and credibility. The first 3 are social, technical, and factual proof. Social proof are things like testimonials and case studies. If you have testimonials of previous clients you've worked with or previous product owners who've gone through and really gotten a good result, that's awesome. That's social proof. But it's only one form of proof. Another form of proof could be technical proof, where instead of offering a testimonial, you're offering for example, for technical, it would be a research report or a scientific study that came out around your product or the specific process that you're going to teach. Maybe it's some sort of third-party article that you found in a very well-known research journal or well-respected publication. Not things like the National Enquirer, but if you went to the Harvard Business Review for business type stuff, if you went to the American Medical Association for health stuff, things that are very technical and realistic are going to be forms of proof for you, especially if you don't have any testimonials or case studies that you can talk about. This is really relevant for people in the fitness industry. It's really relevant for people who don't have a lot of social proof yet or are in a type of industry where social proof is hard to come by. So if you're a relationship coach and you help people deal with problems in their marriage or deal with problems, in their own personal lives, a lot of the time they're not going to give you a testimonial because it's kind of an embarrassing problem to go through and fix. So if you have one of those types of businesses, getting testimonials is hard. But you can have a lot of technical proof in the form of articles, in the form of people talking about some of the concepts and that sort of thing. And this also lines up with factual proof. And factual proof is less about the technical publications and more about data that you can find, like surveys that you've done, data that you've researched, specific stuff that you've found on your own or information that you found in your own businesses, systems that you can create and show logically. Those are the things that are in the factual realm of factual proof. If you can incorporate all 3 of them, awesome. If you can only incorporate one of them, make sure that it's really, really believable. That's the kind of proof that you want for this irresistible offer. Now, the 4 forms of credibility are endorsement, qualification, awards, and logic. And endorsement is exactly what it sounds like. If it's a celebrity or a well-known person in your niche that specifically endorses your product, your service, your program, something like that, you must absolutely use that. As a matter of fact, I would say that having an endorsement from a person in your niche is one of the most powerful ways to market your product, regardless of whatever else you have, because it's kind of this de facto proof for a lot of things. The next one, though, is qualification. And qualification has to do with certificates, degrees, any sort of schooling that you have, any sort of records that you have that showcase your expertise, that builds up your credibility. There's a reason people trust doctors. There's a reason people trust experts that have degrees, and it's because it takes time and effort to achieve those things. Now, it's not the only thing. Obviously, a lot of people chase degrees, but if you have them, there's no point to not use them. If you have a doctorate, if you have a PhD, if you have a master's degree, if you have some sort of a qualification, you must absolutely use it as part of the proof and credibility for your irresistible offer. Like we said in the beginning, if you have a high intrinsic ROI, the next hurdle to go over is whether or not it's a true offer. And your credibility and your proof is going to go the entire way to prove that you're actually telling the truth. And if they can believe that, then the sale is 90% done. The next 2 are obviously awards and logic. Awards are exactly what they sound like if you've ever been awarded anything in your industry, so I won't go too deep into that. It's either a yes or no question. Did you receive some sort of award that you can showcase? And the 4th one is logic. So logic is something where you can actually talk through why your ROI offer is the way it is. And so if you can logically prove why something is actually awesome, then it lends more credence to whether or not that's true. Here's an example. There's a company in South Korea who South Koreans are notoriously price conscious around things, that says that they have typical luxury cosmetics that they sell at their store, but everything is under $10. And that sounds like an amazing offer, but immediately goes, wait, why is it under $10? Some of these things cost $90 or $100 or more. And they say, look, and they use a logical way of explaining it. most of the money that you pay for with these luxury cosmetics is in marketing and in shipping and all this kind of stuff. Because we buy ours wholesale and we don't market anything, we are allowed to market down to the lowest price we possibly can and therefore sell it to you at less than $10. That logical train of thought makes people go, okay, that makes perfect sense. That's why it's a great deal, and that's why I'm going to go run here. Now, that's a low price logical thread. If you go for a higher ticket logical thread and you make some sort of offer like, I will write a VSL for you that will convert at 1% to 2%, and if it does not, then we'll work for you until it works, or we'll refund you your entire fee. And people go, well, how could you stay in business if you're going to refund people's fees when copy doesn't work? Copy is kind of a crapshoot. You say, well, actually, we've developed a specific system that we employ with every single VSL that allows us to have a 99% success rate at getting them to 1% to 2% conversion rates as long as you are qualified as a client. And people go, oh, wow, your system is awesome. That's why you have that amazing offer. Same thing for fitness. How can you guarantee that I'll lose this much weight? Well, I have a specific system that we use that has a 99% effectiveness rate if you follow that system. And then people love the logic of that. By combining these three factors, a high intrinsic ROI offer with clarity, simplicity, brevity, and immediacy, including proof and credibility, 90% of your job as a high ticket seller is done with this one slide. So put a lot of thought into this. Figure out the best possible offer that you can make to someone truthfully. Just lay it out. It might sound crazy in your head. The crazier, the better. And then get to the point where you can prove that statement beyond any shadow of a doubt. And you will have your high ticket offer 90% of the way there. Now let's jump into the pre-frame. The pre-frame includes your irresistible offer, but it also includes your mindset. So like I said, 90% of high ticket sales is in the pre-frame. But when you go into the sales conversation for a high ticket sale, you can't view it as an actual sales call. Instead, I would like you to flip your mindset and view it as an interview, because you are the provider of whatever high ticket service or program or product you are selling. That's on you. There's only one of you. There's only so many of your products that you're going to sell. And there's only so many people who are qualified to even be a part of what it is that you're creating. That's the perspective you need to have as the person in the sales conversation versus, a needy salesperson who needs to scrounge every dollar out of every person they talk to. That's not the powerful positioning. If you go into the call as if it's an interview for you to find out whether or not that person is right for your program or is right for your service, it flips the power positioning immediately and allows you to be extremely selective with the type of people that you work with. And that's going to be good for you because it'll give you more testimonials, better results, better working environment, everything that you could ever want because you're choosing the right people to work with. But it's also better for the client, because the client will either not work with you if they're not qualified and therefore not have a bad experience, or they will know that they're qualified and they will know that they're in good hands because you have actually selected them to be a part of whatever it is that you're offering. So that's the mentality that you want to come into this conversation with. And then once you're in the conversation, you want to play the role of a doctor or of a therapist, someone who is really trying to dig down and diagnose the problem that client or prospect is dealing with, versus just taking an order from someone, being a fry cook. If you diagnose the problem, you're in the power positioning, you're allowed to look deeply into their lives, and you're not going to give them some sort of solution that isn't going to be right for them. But if you're taking an order, then you basically get on the phone and you start getting yelled at, or you start getting dictated to, or you start having people tell you what they want from you. That's not the powerful way to do a high ticket sale, and you're not going to make any high ticket sales from that perspective, because it devalues you and it makes the people who are paying those fees, or that might be paying those fees, it makes them worried, because they don't want to talk to someone who's meek, or someone who's just scrounging for money, or someone who's willing to be dictated to if they truly believe that you are an expert who can solve their one problem. And the last thing I wrote down there is just kind of a mentality shift. There's only one of you, there's only so much of your time, and there's 7 billion other people on the planet. So Don't worry about getting told no. Don't worry about getting told this isn't right for me or your program sucks or anything like that, because those are the opinions of individuals. And as long as you do have a program that genuinely helps people, those types of people are just noise, and it doesn't pay you anything financially or emotionally to pay any attention to them. So that's the pre-frame, that's the mentality. Irresistible offer, and then the mentality and the pre-frame that you need to have going into the call. So let's talk about actually setting the call frame. This is what happens as soon as you hop on the phone. And this script that you see on the screen is something that you can actually use in any sales conversation that you have when you're selling something high ticket. And so we'll talk about this for a second. You say, "Hi, name. Good to have you on the call today, but just so you know, I have calls lined up right after this one, so we've got to stick to 45 minutes. You scheduled a call to discuss blank, whatever the reason was they give you in the scheduler, correct? All right, what specifically interested you in reaching out today?" That's it. That's what you say in the beginning. And here's how that works psychologically. So first off, you're building a quick rapport by saying, "It's good to have you on the call today." You're not launching directly into your frame. You're saying, "Hey, thanks for being here. I appreciate your time. I hope you respect mine," that kind of thing. But you're immediately setting the power frame of going, "Look, I have calls after this one, and so we have to stick to a very strict timeline." That gives you a very powerful frame in the client's mind. It shows that you are a professional, and it shows that you do have other people that you're going to talk to. Now, let's assume for a second that you don't have any other people to talk to after this, and this is the only person you're talking to. You still need to have the perspective that you're going to move on from this person in 45 minutes, regardless of whether or not you have anyone after them. The reason being, if you put too much emotional energy into the single conversation that you're having with that person, they will feel it, even on the other side of the phone. There's a reason why telemarketers are told to smile when they talk to people. There's a reason why salespeople are standing up at their desks when they talk to people. The energy you have at a call or during a call is going to transfer through to the other person. And it's not some woo-woo stuff. It's actually been proven in a lot of different research studies on how people interact with each other, even over phone and things like that. So the energy that you have going into this by saying, "I have calls lined up after this one, so we've got to stick to 45 minutes, is a powerful frame of a person who's a professional and going to offer some real value to this client today. Now, the next part of it, you scheduled a call to discuss reason, and asking correct, is forcing them to answer the most immediate problem that they have. If they scheduled a call with you, like you were taught in Module 9 and like you have your lead generation system set up for, then they did that for a very specific reason. And you should know that reason going into the call, or you should at least have a very good idea of what that reason was. And you need to bring that immediately to the forefront at the very beginning of the call, because you're not here to chit chat. You're not here to give them advice. You're not here to teach them stuff. This call is specifically created so that you can verify whether or not they're going to be a good candidate for whatever high ticket thing you're selling. So that next part of the sentence is, you scheduled a call to discuss reason, correct? And that's a yes or no thing, or it's a clarification thing. They go in, "Yeah, I wrote that down, but actually what I really wanted to talk about was this." Or, "Yeah, I wrote that down, but I really just wanted to hear a little bit about what you do." So they'll say something, and it will get them to respond, and again, position you as the person in charge of the call. And like we talked about here, you always control the call. It's your job to control the call. It's your job to be the authoritative person in the room when you do that. The third part of this opening sentence is, what specifically interested you in reaching out today? So first, you're getting the verification of the reason they called, right? You scheduled a call to discuss reason, correct? Yes or no? And then you ask them the follow-up, what specifically interested you in reaching out today? That's going to make them kind of come up with the real reason that they reached out to you. So if they said, "I want to discuss, a VSL," right? Okay, they want to discuss a VSL, but what specifically interested you in reaching out? And then they say, "Okay, well, I saw some of your posts, and it looks like you are an awesome copywriter, and you want to, and we would really want to explore with you. We've got a product that we need to write a VSL for, and it looks like this, and blah, blah, blah." And so you're getting the specifics on the reason they called you. If you're in fitness, you're in relationships, you're getting the specifics on what they called you. And as you can see down here a little ways, The word specifically, the word exactly, the word precisely is a very revealing question, or a very revealing set of words, because it's going to force the person that you're talking to break out of their story and actually tell you what's really wrong. And that is going to set up the conversation to a place where you can actually help them fix what's wrong, rather than having them spew their story at you and then never get anywhere. So we'll keep talking about this first sentence here to kind of like validate what I'm talking about. But this is how I start out almost every single one of my client calls, unless it's with a client that was referred from a client that I already know, or we've had some sort of conversation in the past. If it's a brand new person, this is how I start out all of my conversations. So there's going to be a couple types of people that you deal with. One of the most common types of people that I deal with are information seekers. So if the information seekers get on the call with you and you ask the question, you schedule a call to discuss reason, correct? What specifically interested you in reaching out today? And they say, well, I just wanted to learn a little bit more about what you do. And it seems like you're pretty smart, but, just, tell me what you do, Lucas, or whomever. When you get that type of person, then they don't actually care what you do. The information seeker is obfuscating the real reason they called because they're uncomfortable and don't want to talk about it yet. And they don't entirely trust themselves to reveal it. Now, it's going to come off as a distrust of you if you can get past that first veneer, right? The number one thing is to not buy into that very first thing. If they say, I just want to learn a little bit more about you, then you do not launch into a diatribe about what you do. That's not your job on this call. Like I said, you're interviewing them. They're not interviewing you. And so if they say something like that, you can respond with, that's great. I'm sure you have lots of questions, but what specifically did you want help with today? And then let them answer and force them to answer basically, what specifically did you want help with today? And then they'll say, okay, well, I contacted you because we're thinking about doing a VSL. I'm like, okay, why is that? Well, our last copywriter didn't do a great job, and so we're trying to find a new one, and it's kind of a short notice thing. You're like, oh, okay, so it's, you need it done quickly, and the last copywriter bombed the project. That stinks. Why is that? Or why do you think that was? And it's like, well, And so you start the actual conversation around the problem rather than letting them rope you into a conversation about you. This is not about you on this call. This is not about you proving yourself to anyone. This is not about you doing what they ask you to do. This is about you verifying and validating that they are a good fit for whatever service or program you're offering. So the information seeker is a person you're going to hear about a lot. The second type of person that I see most often is the power grab person. So this type of person isn't a passive information seeker. Instead, they're the kind of person who just immediately launches into a dictatorial type relationship where they're like, yeah, we need a VSL done. We need it now. And I need to know what your rates are because I don't have much time for this call. And, I just need to know what your rates are. I need to know if, we're looking at several other copywriters and I just, I took this call because that's what you wanted or something like that. It's the power grab. The best way to handle a person who comes in with a very powerful mentality or trying to take the power away from you as the person who kind of owns the conversation, the best way to deal with that is three different ways. The first way is to judo it. So judo in the sense of take that power and just shift it back into them. So if they say something like, yeah, I just took this call because you had me sign up for it, I'm like, okay, well, I appreciate you jumping on, but we do have a time limit here. So what specifically did you want to reach or talk about today? Like that kind of thing, because you've already positioned yourself as having a time limit and you said, okay, well, what specifically did you need help with today? So we can just get right down to brass tacks. And that allows you to maintain the power positioning while also kind of flipping their energy into something that not only validates what you said, but also validates what they said. Because if they're on a time crunch, then you can go straight for the kill and say, okay, why did you contact me today? And then start actually having the conversation. The second thing is called the small denial. And the small denial is if they try and maintain power positioning and say something like, I only have 30 minutes for this call, especially after you say 45 minutes in your opener. Well, I only have 30 minutes for this call, so we don't have to take the full 45 minutes. And I have had this happen. We don't have to take the full 45 minutes. I only have 30 minutes for you. Okay, let's do 20 minutes so I can get lunch before my next call. So we'll just keep this down to 20 minutes. Now, what's the most important, or what's the main reason you reached out to me today? That's the frame, the way to kind of shift it with a small denial of them being able to like take over your control. You're denying them the control while not being an asshole about it, right? Let's just do 20 minutes so I can go get lunch before my next call. And the next thing obviously is defiance. And defiance is kind of like where you play the power game back and forth and you turn it into a game. That's more of a personality thing. I don't coach that. If you are the kind of person who likes to play those power games, then you can do it. But it's essentially where they push the power forward. You kind of defy them in a little way that says, well, no, actually, we'll talk for 45 minutes because that's what you scheduled, or otherwise you're wasting my time. Like that kind of defiance is going to grab the power back, but it's a give and take thing. I don't really coach that. So this is the way to start the call and kind of frame the call for your own, and a couple ways to deal with the types of people that you're going to see if they just don't automatically answer your questions. Just remember, you're always in control of the call, and you don't have to work with anyone who makes you feel weird or that you don't want to talk to. Plain and simple. If somebody's making you uncomfortable, the easiest way to say that is, you know what? I can tell this probably isn't a fit. I appreciate your time in the call, but I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you very much. And then hang up, because you really don't have to talk to people that you don't want to work with. It's that simple. And that kind of power positioning is very good to have sitting with you as you talk to people for your high ticket service. Now, one of the resources that I want you to use is to go back to Module 2 and look at the 11 authority questions, because those authority questions are very specific, not only to freelancers, but to people who you want to pry into their situation and really probe for the pain that exists in their situation. Now, it's not going to be specifically relevant for you if you're not a freelancer looking to get a service contract, but you need to take those 11 authority questions and modify them to your product or service. Because while the specific wording of that question might not be relevant for your industry, the tone behind it and the insight that you're going to get for your industry absolutely will be if you modify it just to fit your product or service. So make sure to go back to Module 2 and make sure you have those 11 authority questions in your toolbox when you have these conversations. Now, after you've set the call frame using that sentence, and you're getting them to start discussing why they contacted you, you're going to want to do 4 things in order. The first thing is find the pain, right? Like I said before, you're going to be using the words exactly, specifically, precisely. You're going to be finding the pain. You're going to dig, and you're going to say why. That's the second thing. You're going to find the why, and you're going to ask, why is that important to you? You're going to dig down into the criteria that they have. Very similar to the market research you do for writing copy. You're actually just researching into this specific person during the call and trying to figure out what makes them tick. Why do they really care about getting a VSL done? Why do they really care about losing 45 pounds? Why do they really care about fixing their marriage? Like, it's going to be something that is very visceral to them, but they're never going to reveal that up front. So first things first, find the pain and ask questions like exactly. So exactly how much money did you make last month? Exactly how much weight did you lose in the last 3 months? None? Okay, exactly how much weight did you gain in the last 3 months? Okay, 15 pounds. Specifically, how many leads did you get last month? Specifically, how many arguments were you having with your wife last month? Right? Precisely, how many miles did you drive in your car? So you're asking them these very probing questions, because what it's going to reveal is, 1, whether or not they have any actual data, which is very relevant for you if you're going to try and solve their problem. But 2, it's going to reveal the specifics. It's going to reveal the stuff that you actually need to know in order to help them. And it's basically going to get them on the real plane and out of their story and out of the crap that they tell themselves and everyone else every day. So find the pain, and then once you find the pain and ask them specifically and find out what their goals are and all that kind of stuff, and why they're running away from the pain, or why they're having these issues, or why they think they're having those issues, then you're going to dig down into the criteria behind those goals and desires and pains and all that kind of stuff, and really find out where they are at their core. again, this is an interview. You're trying to figure out enough about this person to make a decision for you whether or not you want to work with them. And if you hear something during the call that makes you go, I can't help them, then you can say that. You can say, well, it looks like based on this, we're not a fit. I appreciate your time and thanks for calling. Or, you're listening and you hear someone you can help or that is a good fit for your service, and you go, and then now it just kind of builds up that confidence for you, but it's also something you're writing down on a little notepad afterward or during the call, where you have all of this evidence now that you can start to use in the call if you need to start convincing them for some reason, like if they start backpedaling or whatever. The third thing you want to do is investigate their level of commitment. So they did schedule a call with you and they went through your entire lead generation system, but this is where the rubber meets the road, is this conversation, this call. Because if they don't want to take action, it will show in this call. And your job as the high ticket seller is to make them take action one way or the other. They don't have to say yes, but they have to say yes or no. They can't say maybe or later or contact me or send me more information. Your job on this call is to make them make a decision. And here's the cool thing about it, especially with your power positioning. If you make them make a decision and they aren't, and they're saying, oh, well, send me some more information, then you get to make the decision for them. And you say, okay, I understand that you want to take more time to make a decision, but you scheduled this call and you went through all the information that we put into our lead generation, and you told me that you had these exact problems that are happening in this exact way, and this is why you want to solve them. And if you don't want to make a decision on this call, then I can tell that you're not actually as invested into the solution that you said you would. So we're not a fit. And that type of powerful positioning is going to make them either go, you know what, you're right, or it's going to make them go, no, you're right, we need to start this. And so it's going to knock them off the fence one way or the other. If they get mad at that type of frontness, then it's a defensive mechanism and you can work with that. Or you can simply say, you know what, you're right, we're not a fit. And move on, go from there. Like I said, this conversation is designed to make them make a decision rather than seesaw around or need information. And it's up to you so that they don't waste your time by giving you another call or staying in your list or anything like that, that they've gotten this far, they need to make a decision one way or the other. And that's the last part, is help them or enable them to make the decision right there on the call. If it's a program, have a way for them to take payment, or have a way for yourself to take payment for that program on the call. As in, we're on Skype, I'm going to send you a PayPal link. Let me know when you receive it and when you pay it, and I'll get a notification. Like right now. We can do this right now on the call. Or if you want to pay by credit card, I can key in your number right now. Take a payment right there on the call, because as most good salespeople know, once you lose them, once they're off the call, then the chance of them not actually paying goes up by around 50 to 90%, depending what your industry is, if you let them off the hook right there on the call. And that's not some weird scammy tactics. That's literally just life. If they decide to defer the decision further, then they're going to decide to defer the decision on and on and on and on. So have a way for them to take payment right on the call. If you provide some sort of service, as in it's custom, it's bespoke to every single client, then I actually encourage you to not take payment on the phone and instead get everything you need from them and say, okay, it looks like I have everything I need to create a proposal, but it looks like we're looking at these specific things here. We're going to look at this type of ROI for those types of things. And this is the plan that we're going to follow. Do I need to add anything else? Do you have anything specific to the call? If you're providing a service, go back to the 10x your freelance fees module, because there's some specific things that you want to line out for this high ticket sale. And then go away and write the proposal that is basically exactly what you talked about on the call. And then if they say yes or no, you know it's a question like either an objection that came up in between, or the fact that it's going to be a bad client who doesn't pay you on time and you don't need to waste any more time. So those 4 things: find the pain, find the why, investigate commitment, and actually enable them to make a decision right there on the call. And that, guys, is it for high ticket selling. Frame the conversation in the beginning, like we talked about here. Frame the conversation in the beginning of the call with a time focus and specific questions. Understand that you're going to be meeting a lot of different type of people with these types of conversations, but always maintain the control of the call, because it's you interviewing them, not them interviewing you or demanding anything of you, right? Create your irresistible offer with a high intrinsic ROI that is clear, simple, brief, and immediate to them, and then provide an enormous amount of proof and credibility using social, technical, factual proof and endorsements, qualifications, awards, and logic as credibility. That is going to do 90% of your heavy lifting. The other part of that 90% is your mindset. It's an interview, not a sales call, and you are diagnosing the problem. You are not taking an order. Bring those things into the call and then frame the call like this and understand the 4 things you have to do during the call. Find the pain, find the why, investigate commitment, and make the decision. And that is all there is to high ticket selling. Everything else that you're going to hear is either fluff or a specific template that worked for that specific salesperson that doesn't take into account your personality, your product, your industry, your price point, or the clients that you're talking to. So this is the high level strategy and the tactics that you can use and that I've taught to other people to use that have helped me sell 6 figures worth of copywriting every single year for the last 3 years. It's helped video creators that I've coached sell 5 and 6 figure packages. It's helped lots and lots of different types of service providers and lots of coaches and experts sell high ticket stuff with the exact methods that I've just told you. So go out, do great things, start selling high ticket things. That was the high ticket selling module. Thank you for your time today.